Welcome to the episode 5 of the Sideletters podcast, the weekly B2B insights on film, tech, and future business in Europe, made for professionals and decision makers in the creative economy, such as you. The Sideletters is a conversation between us, 3 European producers, and our guests, exploring what's going on in the market, and we share our individual perspective on that. It's March 11, and we've got a couple of things to talk about. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Kristina Trapp, CEO of EAVE, European Audiovisual Entrepreneurs, one of Europe's most established and longest-running training organizations for international films and TV producers. We'll discuss how EAVE has trained generations of producers, helping them upscale their skills and careers. We'll also explore how the organization continues to reinvent itself, anticipating industry shifts and enabling professionals to upscale and acquire the new capabilities needed in a landscape increasingly shaped by the creator economy, gaming, and AI.
Yes, and why all of this matters for the creative industry in Europe. I am Joanna Szymańska, producer from Warsaw.
And I'm Jennifer Sabai-Imagine. I'm a strategic consultant working from Paris.
And I'm Fabian, a producer working in Berlin and Hamburg. But before we get to the conversation with Tina, our main part, we wanted to give you an overview about 3 deals that rattled the news last week. In fact, it's about the era of great consolidation that we are all experiencing right now. And we wanted to inspire you and did a little research on historic moments that have some similarities, maybe, what history tells us about what could be next after this phase of consolidation. So the 3 big news last week was that Paramount buys Warner for $110 billion. Canal Plus shuts down Showmax across Africa, and Benny J and All3Media merge into an $8 billion production giant. So if you're an independent producer watching this, it feels like the ground is shifting beneath your feet, and you're right to be concerned, but somehow I feel that we've seen this movie before, and maybe there are some takeaways from historical parallels of strong consolidation in the markets that help us navigating also with regard of possible outcomes of all this. So let's be clear about what's actually happening. This isn't just consolidation, it feels like a capitulation. The Paramount-Warner Bros. Deal promises 30 theatrical releases a year. In fact, they just speak about 30 theatrical projects, not even releases. And a combined streaming service with 200 million subscribers. But buried in that announcement is a $6 billion in cost synergies, as they put it. And that's corporate speak for layoffs. And when David Ellison claims he'll increase output while cutting cost, he's essentially saying, do more with less people. And will all those 30 promised movie projects per year will really receive a proper theatrical release? We'll see about that. Showmax's shutdown in Africa is even more telling. Canal Plus acquired MultiChoice, the mother platform for Showmax, for $2 billion. Looked at Showmax's substantial annual losses and just pulled the plug. 3 million subscribers gone. And this is what happens when you're a line item on a balance sheet instead of a strategic priority. The third one, the Benny J All3Media merger, creates 170 production labels and 260,000 hours of content. But the most revealing detail came from their investor call. They're targeting a 50 million euros in savings by eliminating duplication in distribution and sales. The translation for this, they have 2 sales teams doing the same job, and one of them is getting fired. So this is the pattern. Merge, promise synergies, cut people, repeat. But if this feels familiar, it is because it is. 26 years ago, AOL bought Time Warner for $182 billion in what was supposed to create a media company of the future. Instead, it became a case study in how not to do a merger. And the vision was simple: combine Time Warner's content with AOL's 30 million internet subscribers. AOL shareholders got 55% of the company, despite Time Warner having far more assets. The deal closed in January 2001. And within months, everything fell apart. The dot-com bubble burst. The cultural clash was immediate. AOL's aggressive and fast-moving culture versus Time Warner's bureaucratic approach. But the real killer was technology. Broadband internet rendered AOL's dial-up business model obsolete almost overnight. And by 2002, the combined company posted a $99 billion loss. By 2009, they divorced. So the lesson isn't that consolidation always fails. It's that consolidation doesn't guarantee the synergies everyone promises. But here's where it gets interesting for independents. Because what happened after the 2000s consolidation wave created massive opportunities. For example, in the UK. In the UK, regulatory changes called terms of trade gave independent producers the right to retain IP in their shows. And suddenly, indies weren't just work-for-hire shops. They were businesses with valuable libraries. This created the super indie phenomenon. Companies like Endemol Shine, All3 Media, and ITV Studios that grew by making hits and owning them. And these super indies became acquisition targets themselves. Benny J bought Endemol Shine for $2.2 billion in 2020. Now Benny J is merging with All3 Media. So the cycle continues. But during this period between the consolidation and the mega consolidation, a window opened. Smaller indies with strong IP could either build sustainable businesses or sell at premium valuations. And the consolidators needed content pipelines, and indies had them. The same pattern emerged with streaming. When Netflix, Amazon, and Apple entered content production around 2015, they needed producers who could deliver quickly. Indies who positioned themselves correctly with local expertise, genre specialization, or format libraries had leverage. So what does this mean for you or us independent producers today? I see some strategic positions, and I would like to share 3 of them, all to be discussed, of course. First, own your IP, whatever it takes. The coming wave will be a battle for libraries. If you control your intellectual property, you have some negotiation power. That might mean lower upfront fees, but the back end is where the survival lives. Second, specialize ruthlessly. Mega corporations are generalists by nature. They can't excel at everything. Find the niche that's too small for them to dominate, but large enough for you to sustain you. Whether that's a regional expertise, genre mastery, or format innovation, depth beats breadth. Third, build direct relationships now. The consolidation creates gaps. When Canal Plus is shutting down Showmax, we will have to see where those 3 million African viewers will go. When Paramount and Warner Bros. Merge their distribution teams, who handles the projects that fall through the cracks? There are some gaps, and these gaps are opportunities. So look what's already emerging. Companies like A24 and Neon, they're proving that focused theatrical releases can work at a smaller scale. The creator economy is allowing filmmakers to build audiences directly. So history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. The consolidation we're seeing now will create the same thing every consolidation creates: inefficiency, redundancy, and some gaps in the market. So for independent producers, it makes no sense to compete with the consolidators. It's to position oneself for what comes after, when the promised synergies fail to materialize, when the cultures clash, and when the debt becomes unsustainable. That's when the next window opens. And new indies will emerge that give the audience what the consolidators can't: original, inspiring, and surprising stories. Now we go to the conversation between Joanna, Jennifer, and our guest, Tina Trapp from EAVE.
Founded in 1988 and based in Luxembourg, EAVE runs a wide range of international training and networking programs for audiovisual producers. These include the renowned Producers Workshop, a year-long training program for some 55 producers from up to 40 countries, selected from more than 300 candidates each year, as well as EAVE Plus, which focuses on company development and strategic planning. EAVE also offers specialized initiatives such as EAVE Marketing Workshops, the AI Skills Booster EAVE Slate, and EAVE On Demand, which delivers tailored training programs around the world. Wow, that's a lot on your plate, Tina. So let's dive into it.
Maybe to start with, and before we dive into the specificities, can you tell us about your journey, Tina, to EAVE and what led you to become the CEO of the company?
Thank you, Joanna, and thank you, Jennifer, for having me. In my studies, I actually studied literature, and literature has also been my first love, and it's still a love that's very big in my life. But right after my studies, I got the opportunity to work in a regional film fund, and then moved on to various positions in the film industry, working in film commissions, production, festivals, markets, and Arte, before working in training for the Atelier Ludwig Paris, actually, where I discovered professional training. And I found out that that's really the space in this industry that I want to work in and I want to have an impact in. And EAVE, more specifically, had actually been my dream destination before I was able to join and asked to join it. And when I finally joined in late 2004, I started as program manager, and I had various positions within the organization before actually becoming CEO in 2009. When I joined at that time, EAVE was quite a different beast than it is today. It was only European producers participating, and also we only had the producers workshop back then. Since then, a lot has happened. We've been questioning and renewing the methodology, the kind of scope we have, created a lot of new programs. So that's also what makes me still feel that it's still my dream job, because I love to work first in an international environment. It's really important for me to have impact with the work I do. And I also need my personal values to be aligned with my work. And I don't like repetition. So that's why EAVE is a constantly evolving environment and something where I have the feeling I can shape things, improve and innovate and create something new all the time. That's really important for me. And then the essence of my work, of course, here at EAVE is to sort of help and support producers in their careers and having a real positive impact on their careers. And that's something that's very rewarding.
And for those listeners who may not know what EAVE is, can you maybe describe the mission of the organization and like specific methodology or approach you have?
EAVE's mission in a nutshell is providing producers and also other industry professionals with opportunities for training, professional training, and giving them skills and tools they need to succeed in an ever-changing industry. The methodology is quite unique and has been sort of invented by EAVE in 1988. It's like a blend of pedagogical approaches. At the center, you have group work, where we create really a safe space where people open up and share and everybody feeds in, which is also a lot of peer-to-peer learning. And then we mix it with individual mentoring, plenary sessions, interactive elements, and a lot more. The approach in general is super hands-on. It's very horizontal and interactive, and very much based on solidarity, discretion, and honesty. This kind of safe and non-competitive space is really open, because I think when people don't really open up about their doubts, fears, and so on, you don't create a space for growth. So you need to be very open for people to actually develop and go further in their careers.
Can I just add maybe on a technical side that we are right now in the middle of workshop 1 of EAVE Producers Workshop, and we are recording it in one of the group rooms, so you might be hearing slight echo. So this is the EAVE echo reaching you right now.
I think since we are in the middle of EAVE and now Joanna and I have the pleasure to be expert, but we are currently, Joanna and I, alumni of the Producers Workshop. And I think that I can say this had a major impact on our career and our professional positioning, but also I think our life and the way we view life. From your perspective, what makes EAVE unique compared to other initiatives?
Okay.
We of course love it, right? But there are some distinctive features.
Yeah, what I think is quite different compared to other programs, and I'm not saying this in terms of judgment, it's just a very different approach, is that for us, we focus on people over projects, on mind over matter. Also, we are very open in terms of format, because we think that a producer has many projects, can produce many forms of content while still being a producer. However, we do select projects, so half of the participants come actually with actual projects, but we use them more as case studies that the whole group then can learn from, where we can tackle many tools, many aspects that are useful for also other projects. So it's always about giving producers skills and tools that they can use not only for one project, but for more projects, and giving them a chance to sort of step back from their daily routine, not only serving that one project, but having a more strategic approach of who are you as a producer? What kind of producer do you want to be? How do you select projects? how do you want your company to resemble you or look like, and how do you structure that? And I think it's this mix of skills and tools, a very carefully curated group of professionals that comes together, that's very diverse also, because we think the more different people are that come to this space in terms of not only gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic background, but also business setups, methodologies, the more inspiring it will be for everybody to learn something new and have inspiration of how to do things differently in the future. And then, of course, also, again, this safe space that really allows for growth. And I think that's why people very much feel that EAVE is has a transformative impact on their lives. And very often we hear, even though it sounds cheesy, that for a lot of people there's a before and after EAVE in their careers and how they approach their
I think
careers.
we can confirm, right, Jennifer?
Sure.
And what you said, that the groups are very diverse, that EAVE is a different beast than it was when you joined. You also mentioned that it's not only producers who are participants. So what type of participants typically join the program today or apply to join the program today?
Yeah. So already I think there's not really a typical participant, which makes it interesting. And we really also take the time to look at individual applications. That's also why usually I advise people who want to apply to put a lot of care and thought into their motivation letter, because that's where we get to know who you are as a professional. Also, what do you expect out of EAVE? Is that something we can actually fulfill, or is it something we can't? Or what's your kind of motivation? And we do interviews with over 100 applicants, which is quite a lot, but it really allows us to get to know individually who they are, where they want to be. And it is, however, also true that the selection has become more and more competitive because we get over 300 applications and most of them are really interesting. So in general, I would say as a producer, you have to have already produced at least one feature, have a track record in your country, and be ready to sort of work on the international scene. Then we also have participants that are not producers. Those can be other types of industry professionals that work very closely with producers, such as funders, because I think for funders, there's also a lot to learn in an industry that is changing and they have to redefine also what they're doing. They have to be very aware of the needs of the producer. And at the same time, producers who work with funds as partners also need to know their obligations and their way of thinking. It's very often also sales agents, either sales agent moving into production or just wanting to be more aware of what producers do, market representatives, and industry key people.
And also, Tina, EAVE has always been a bit ahead of its time in terms of building programs and building initiatives. You also have a wide range of initiatives for other kind of participants. So what other program and maybe shorter programs for also professionals in the industry do you have?
Yeah. Joanna mentioned some already at the beginning, and I will try to be brief because we are actually doing, for example, last year, I believe we had 37 workshops that we organized over the year. So that's quite a lot for a very small team.
How big is the team? Yeah.
We are 7.5.
Oh, wow. Who's the half?
Wow.
It's one person working part-time.
Okay.
But,
for 37 programs.
yeah,
Wow.
but it's an amazing team that I'm really happy to work with, and they deserve a lot of credit. That's why it's all possible. So we have, of course, the producers workshop that we are mainly talking about. Then EAVE Plus, which is a workshop on strategic company management leadership and actually how to find new business models, innovative and viable business models. Then we have the EAVE Marketing workshop, which is really all you need to know about film marketing strategies and tools. Then we have EAVE Slate, which is a workshop we run in Trieste at When East Meets West on how to build a successful and diversified company slate. We have the AI Skills Booster, which is an online program. It's like a yearly update on the latest tools used across the value chain, from script development, production, post-production to sales and marketing, also tackling ethical and legal considerations. And we have EAVE On Demand, which are actually tailor-made workshops that we sort of deliver for any kind of partner in the world.
Okay, so a commercial break. If you want to get a bit of EAVE magic, you can call Tina or email her and ask for EAVE on demand. End of commercial. Okay, the number of workshops, I think, also seems to represent your reaction to the changing of the industry. So maybe you can tell us more a little bit about that. How do you, as a program and your training programs, respond to how the industry is changing?
One thing that I would like to add to that is that usually our policy is not to endlessly create new workshops, but we are also very much revising the content of our longer running programs. So that takes a lot of care and attention. And we want to open as many doors as we can for the producers that are attending the programs. And one thing I think also, we are of course talking now a lot about how the industry is changing, but at least in my short or long, how you want to call it, career, one thing I can safely say, it has always been changing and evolving. So not only in the past 10 years. And I think in particular, the role of the producer, who's sort of the motor and the driving force of the creative film industry, those responsibilities and roles have changed a lot. So that's also why a program like ours has to continuously change to make those producers ready and future-proof to sort of succeed in this industry. One element of this is also, and you are good examples of this, is that our consultants are all active industry professionals. So on a daily basis, they share the same reality with our participants and share the same challenges. They come also from different countries and backgrounds. So again, it's a group that should be as diverse as possible. And also, again, the open space. So you get access to information that is shared very confidentially that you wouldn't necessarily have access otherwise.
And if I can add to this, I think this is really something that allows the participants to be always ahead of their times, at least, or realize the realities, because what always for me distinguished EAVE from other workshops is that to be a group leader, to be an expert, you actually need to have your skin in the game and to understand the challenges the participants also might be going through.
And also there is something, I think, a bit personal about EAVE, but for me it was a kind of game changer. There is the word entrepreneur in EAVE, and for me, coming from a creative industry, I mean, I did EAVE producer workshop 20 years ago, and everyone's at the time seen itself as creative, and for me it was a game changer because it was the first place where I see it was serious business, and I was wondering how participants, producers see themselves and the future in our serious business.
Actually, just circling back also to what you said about entrepreneurs, I think that was what was really unique about EAVE when it was created, and you have to have in mind that that was 88. It was about seeing the producer not only as somebody who fills in applications, but who is a true entrepreneur. And it was about co-production, which at that time was more a dream than a reality, because Eurimage, the Creative Europe program, weren't created yet. So that was at that moment when it was not a reality yet. So it was quite visionary at that time. And it has become a reality that is constantly changing. So that's in the nature of it. And when you ask me how do producers see the future, I can't speak, of course, for a whole group of 55 producers this year. But I think especially in the post-pandemic years, there was a real high level of stress and anxiety about the future. Also, of course, with all the shifts, as you said, with the streamers and how are we going to monetize our job. And the general mood, as far as I can observe, is more positive now, again, more hopeful, because I think what's one of the characteristics of this industry is that it's continuously reinventing itself and very agile and versatile. And I think the pandemic has been a proof of that. So that's more positive. On the other hand, you can also feel that the current political climate and the conflicts, escalating conflicts and wars in the world, that weighs a lot on everybody. And I think that's not only in our industry, that's globally true.
We've mentioned Mr. Trump several times on this podcast already. You've mentioned monetizing and the concept of, how in this changing market we will monetize our content. So I want to maybe challenge you a bit. And what do you think? Is monetizing the only success metrics that we should be looking at? Or are there other success metrics that you're working with when you look at the internationality, of producers participating in EAVE?
No, I don't think money should be the only metrics. And I think, of course, we're very used to that in a sort of capitalistic system where we are trying to grow, and growth per se is seen as something very positive. We don't think like that, because how we see our participants is that we always tell them that you are not only working in this industry, you are the industry. So you are actually the ones shaping, imagining it, and impacting it. And that gives you a lot of agency also to advocate for fairer practices, a better and more inclusive industry. And part of that work is reflected in what we do every year in January in Trieste at When East Meets West, which is the EAVE Impact Think Tank, where we gather a diverse group of industry professionals and producers to imagine and shape the future. And not only to sort of identify challenges or how the industry is right now, but actually come up with creative solution and actionable steps and recommendations for the industry. So we always see our job at EAVE also as having a bigger impact on the industry.
I agree that EAVE is the space where you can actually imagine a better version of the industry than it is today. Okay, Jennifer?
And maybe what are the current challenges for training organization today? Because producers have a lot of challenge, but what kind of impact you hope EAVE will continue to have on the next generations of producer or filmmakers? What are the value you will continue to uphold?
If I can add to this, I think it's important to say that these spaces are the place where we can grow and develop and learn new skills and learn new business models. So, yeah, how does it look like from your perspective as a training organization?
It's tricky times, I would say, or at least challenging, because it's a moment where the importance of culture is being questioned worldwide. There's a big right-wing drift in many, many countries. And of course, culture is one thing in the film industry. But then, of course, training is an even smaller part that's even more easily forgotten in those political agendas, because it's about long-term results, it's about strategy, it's about nurturing and building the foundations for an industry, and less about red carpets and immediate results. So that's why the support and existence and continuation of a program like Creative Europe Media is hugely important, because it's the foundation of our identity as a European film industry. It's what defends our cultural identity, diversity, and our ecosystem. And we will continue at EAVE, of course, our successful work, because training had been, in the 35 years of Creative Europe, been identified as one of the big success stories. And we will try to keep up the work to train producers, to make them future ready, and continue to shape and reinvent our industry. In terms of values, I mean, one key value that we have is equity and inclusion, as I already mentioned, but of course also social responsibility, anti-racism, green agendas. And I think we have a big responsibility also to continue that work.
And if I can ask you about this, because these are all the topics that were also discussed in the think tanks, and there are some publications. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about about these kind of tangible results, and how people who are following EAVE where they can find these materials. Can they educate themselves?
Yes, we have been organizing the think tanks now, I think, for 7 or 8 years. And we've always produced a report.
I think I remember the first one. It was January 2020.
That's very possible.
And that was a fantastic think tank, and everything we discussed happened 3 months later.
Yeah, I think that's, somebody told me what they like about EAVE is that the time from idea to paper and action is very short. And that's also something that's an advantage of a small team like ours, because we can be extremely agile. And the reports, it's very important for us that we publish them, because it's all about sharing, not only within EAVE, but also like the values and like the results we have. We want to share them. And you can find all the reports on the EAVE website under EAVE Impact, which is a big part of our work. But we also do regularly sessions at festivals and markets, at other programs, to sort of promote the results in a way that everybody can benefit from them. And this is actually something we are cooking up right now, and it's the first time I'm publicly talking about it. So,
Yeah, exclusive on the Sideletters.
we are right now working on a program that we want to launch this year. It's based on last year's think tank on inclusive production practices, and it will be an online workshop where we actually go through it and how you can implement really from development up to production, co-production, distribution, and sales. A more fair way to cooperate, and also really concrete steps how to make that happen.
Fantastic. I love that EAVE, what you guys do and your team does, is that you are showing that different reality is not a utopia, that is actually possible, and it depends on whether we act on it. So thank you. We have a personal question, no?
Yes.
You want to ask it? Go.
Yeah. I was wondering, it's really personal, Tina, but what kind of producers or filmmakers continues to inspire you today?
You don't have to mention us, right? But other
Of course, you too. It's a difficult question because I think there are so many different kinds of producers. But what I right now especially find very inspiring, but also awe-inspiring, is actually how producers, even in countries without any support mechanisms or funding, or in countries torn apart by war and conflict, still find creative ways to tell their stories, to have a voice, to create films that are important, relevant, beautiful, meaningful, and impactful.
Yes. One last piece of advice for emerging producers of today.
That's maybe a bit of repetition, but I would like to remind all the producers to feel empowered because they are the industry, they are agents of change. You have an advocacy to do something about it and make this industry better.
I'm going to cry.
Well, me too.
We have to wrap it up because we, as we said, are in the middle of the producers workshop and Tina has a lot of duties to attend to. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Tina,
for your time.
Thank you both.
That's it for today. Thanks to Tina Trapp and my wonderful co-host Jennifer Saba-Imagine for this conversation. And I think we will also be hearing from Fabian in this episode, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, you did. I took the liberty to insert it before your conversation with Tina. Thank you so much, guys.
So make sure you follow our community on LinkedIn. That's simply the Sideletters. And see you next Wednesday when we will be back with B2B insights on the creative industries in Europe. Cheerio. Thank you.
Bye-bye.